Order. The question is that grievances be noted. I call the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I rise today to grieve for all Victorians, and we know more than ever, right now, Victoria is facing unprecedented challenges they have not seen at any time in our history. While the government have their hands in their pockets and are doing nothing and lecturing Victorians about being patient, we know that families are facing the brutal reality. Energy bills are increasing at a rate that is breaking the bank. Housing costs are forcing families to make impossible choices of putting food on the table, paying the rent or paying the mortgage. And our roads resemble an obstacle course, not the roads that should be driven on here safely in the state. But of greater concern for Victorians at this crossroad right now is our state is facing a crime crisis that has never happened anywhere in this country at this level. We read about it in the news each and every day. We see it on our streets. We see it in the fear, hear it in the voices of those that have been let down by a broken justice system. We read about it every single day. It is a betrayal of the victims here in our state, a betrayal of the communities that rely on government to keep them safe, a betrayal of the fundamental duty of government to ensure it protects its people. And those crime statistics cannot be denied by anyone opposite. A car is stolen every 20 minutes here in Victoria. Shameful. Every 20 minutes. There has been a 15% increase in crime across the state. There is 19 residential aggravated burglaries each and every day here in Victoria. Every day, 19 families know that someone is coming into their home with a machete, a knife or a gun whilst they sleep to steal their cars. Youth crime is out of control. Between 10 and 17-year-olds, the crime rates have risen between 2009 till now, and we're now seeing 23,810 incidents each and every year, a 16.9% increase year on year. Youth offenders aged 14 to 17 are the most responsible for this increase, with 20,753 incidents last year, a 20.7% increase. And what happens when these criminals are caught? They are bailed. The police work super hard to catch them again and again. They bring them before the courts and they're bailed. And it is vital we stop this catch and release system here in this state to ensure people are held accountable. We've heard the stories. A 15-year-old teen and Central Victorian. He was the fourth most prolific alleged car thief in our state, was recently bailed for the 55th time. The 55th time he has been bailed here in Victoria. Or when it gets worse and it starts to become tragic, Speaker, Stephen Keener was the latest bail controversy involved in a horror crash that claimed the life of 67-year-old Taylor's Hill man in January 2025. The accused killer, Stephen Wilson, 40, was on 6 counts of bail. Six counts of bail when he ploughed into Mr Keener's vehicle. And he's another victim here in our state because of the failure of the Allen Labor Government. The Labor Government has stripped Victoria Police of the essential move-on powers that they require. They've failed to tackle family violence effectively, and we're seeing increases with more than 100,000 family violence victims here in this state. They've allowed youth crime to spiral to such a level that you can only describe it as totally out of control. And the justice system is failing to hold our repeat offenders to account because Labor weakened the bail laws and refused to fix them. Speaker, this morning we heard of a shocking knife attack on Chapel Street. 2 weeks ago, we stood on that very corner with our candidate Rachel Westaway and heard directly from concerned locals who are worried about the crime and the safety in that area. They've raised this issue. The government are aware. If you walk down Chapel Street, that is all we are seeing is issues with crime, and it's been raised with our candidates and with our members each and every day. On this side of the House, We believe that personal responsibility is a fundamental to ensuring we have a law and order state to ensure people who break the law face the consequences of that law and their actions. Speaker, the government has just lost control of the economy. They've lost control of the streets. What was once a distant problem has now become a reality. And every day in our lives, Victorians, they are scared, they are worried in their own homes. They no longer feel the sanctity of safety while they're sitting in their own home watching TV or laying in their bed. And it's not just the number of crimes that are committed. That is alarming. It is the nature of these crimes. And I've spoken about the violent assaults. We've spoken about the robberies, the serious youth crime. I've spoken about in the past when you used to get called as Victoria Police, someone had come in and stolen your TV. Now they come in without any fear that you are going to be home at any time of day or night in gangs and groups to steal your cars. And what do they do with those cars? They take them for joyrides down the street, putting more people in the community at risk. And we can't continue to have that happen. I've spent time in Werribee recently with our candidate Stephen Murphy, and we've spoken to mothers who are afraid to let their children walk home from school. They're afraid that they can't be safe when they walk around the streets, just walking to and from school, and they're now going and picking them up. We've spoken to business owners who have been robbed multiple times in Werribee and Wyndham Vale. At a time that this government says they're putting more resources into Wyndham and Werribee, we know they've got 40 vacancies on the roster. 40 vacancies on the roster. They have trouble getting a van on the road to do a reactive patrol to protect the community.
The Premier didn't tell us that, did she?
The Premier never mentioned anything about that. Or Wyndham Vale, where the police station's hours have been reduced so much that effectively it's very difficult to go and get the support you need when you need it from the Victoria Police. Victoria Police want to do the work. They've got over 1,000 vacancies. And if you think it's bad now, let me assure you, this government is about to see more resignations from the Victoria Police than we've ever seen in any time in history because of the disrespect they've shown from them for such a long period of time. Speaker, we've all heard about Ash Gordon. We all know the story. And he should be alive today. Instead, his family is grieving and Victoria is questioning why someone on bail was given that opportunity to go and take Ash's life. His family's spoken out about demanding action in the justice system. Natalie Gordon, the sister of Dr. Gordon, said the legal system was a joke. It's just the same thing time and time again, she said. Or in a current affair 7 months ago, she also said, unfortunately, they are reoffending more times than not. So why do we keep letting them back into society? The government should change the laws to make it harder to grant bail and easier to keep them in. I truly believe we need to bring in harsher penalties for lesser crimes so we're stopping them from getting to this point in their lives, Ms Gordon said. Speaker, we know on this side of the House, those tougher bail laws we tried to introduce. We wanted to revert to them because people like Ash Gordon should be still with his family. People like Natalie Gordon shouldn't have to be fighting against a government just to get justice, and now she's trying to make sure that the next generation don't go through the same and see people getting on bail and more people dying in our streets. So the questions we must ask and released on bail. 380 charges and released on bail. We've seen the images on TV where a mother of a child who has had bail over 50 times saying, please lock him up. She knows he is dangerous. She knows he needs help. Yet the justice system continues to release him. Benjamin Fikapum, he was the victim of an alleged robbery and abduction. He was dragged down a street at 70 kilometres an hour. He was abducted, robbed, and then dragged by a car over 150 metres and has lifelong injuries, including brain injuries. He is the victim. He is the victim of the failure of a government that does not take law and order seriously. He is the victim of people who are on bail and continuously get the opportunity to commit these crimes here in Victoria. David Ippolina died after being hit by a stolen BMW when he was on his motorbike in the early hours of 11th of August. When he was killed, one of his former colleagues, Tama Curtis, was having to hold back tears whilst being interviewed and spoke of the tragic events. And if this doesn't make you want to change the bail laws here in our state, this comment alone. We are still devastated for his family. He was only 19. No one should have to bury their son. It's bad enough when someone has to bury their child due to illness, natural disasters, but when it's at the hands of someone that the government could have maintained and kept off the streets, it is 10 times worse, and it must be horrific for these families having to live that each and every day. 16-year-old Ryan Singh was surrounded by 8 thugs with machetes during a basketball game. All they wanted was his phone and his shoes. How dare they steal the liberty of Mr Singh, who can now no longer feel safe going out in the street after being stabbed by these thugs. But we do have a solution. We know on this side of the House that, as we've said, personal responsibility is everything. We need to make sure that people who commit these crimes are held accountable. So, we have already tried in this parliament and the government have refused. We need to prohibit the machete. Making it a controlled weapon is simply not good enough. There is no place in this state for any person to be carrying a machete on the streets, in your home, or to rob your house. There is no place. So we need to prohibit it. We need to toughen our bail laws. We have tried in this place before, and our Shadow Attorney General, the member for Malvern, continues to highlight the failures of this government on the changes they made in March 2023. I can suggest to those opposite, and if the new Attorney-General would like a briefing from the Shadow Attorney-General, he will explain to them exactly what has happened, how it is impacting and why people continuously get bail, going back on the streets and causing those crimes. We will reinstate a crime prevention minister and the crime prevention department. Why? Because we want to ensure these young people are not committing crimes in the first place. This government cut $11 million from prevention programs to stop young people committing crimes. We want to make sure that we're intervening early and these young offenders don't get the opportunity to become lifetime criminals. We want to intervene with high-risk kids to keep them off the streets long-term and give them the chances and the tools to become the entrepreneurs, the workers in our community, and be the best that they can. That's what we'll do from this side of the government. We will ban bikies from government projects because it is a bad policy to allow bikies to run trades and major government projects. That highlights the fact that crime pays in Victoria. At the moment, under this government, crime does pay. So, Speaker, we're at that crossroads. We know we've got a lot of work to do, and we're hoping in 665 days we get that opportunity. And that opportunity will be to ensure that this side of the government will deliver on our policies and our process, that we keep Victorians safe. We will make sure that if we are elected into government, we will deliver on everything we have said, and as a priority, on the first sitting of Parliament, that we will sit here for as long as it takes. And if it takes a week, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we will sit in a row to get bail laws back to what they were, because that is the biggest contributing factor to what is happening in our state. We will fix the bail laws to ensure that young offenders who commit dangerous and violent crimes, young offenders who at the moment on videos are sticking their finger up at the Premier and saying, "You simply can't keep me under control. I'll be back on the streets in an hour and a half." And under a government that I lead and work with, we will deliver to make sure that we keep the community safe by reversing those bail laws and ensuring that we don't have the catch and release program under the Labor government.